Gary, thank you so much for joining. Tell everyone who you are.
Thanks for having me, Stuart. Who am I? It's like an existential kind of question. No, I'm Gary, co-founder and CEO of Tangent, early stage founder, very mission, purpose-driven person. Like super early stage founder. We've just closed our first round of funding, backed by an incredible kind of group listening of investors, which is very exciting. Early in the journey, lots to learn. And that's actually what's really exciting, is like all these like learnings that are going to come.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing well so far. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's me.
Nice. And what is the business? Tell us what you do or what the vision is.
Yeah, sure. So at Tangent, as I mentioned, very purposeful, mission-driven person. Like our mission is to create a world where the social context you're born into do not determine your career and life outcomes, because quite frankly, right now they do. There's a stat from the OECD that says that if you're born into the bottom 10% of incomes, which is where I was born, right? I grew up low income and all of that. It will take you 5 generations, which is equal to 150 years to reach just average income. So not rich, not, living a lavish, not joie de vivre, just average, which in the UK is around 30K. Wow. But that takes you to go from the bottom 10% where I was to 30K, 150 years. And that to me is just like a clear admission of the fact that what you're born into determines your life outcomes, which is so frustrating though, because none of us have any influence of what we're born into. Yeah. Our parents meet, they make love, and they have us. And the financial and social circumstances that they're born into determines where we end up. And that just needs to change. I'm fed up with that. And so that's kind of the vision, the mission, the vision behind Tangent. And today, the first step in kind of creating and shaping that world, we are an employee referral platform.
Nice.
That combines video, AI, and then a dynamic marketplace to make employee referrals accessible to everyone and not just the privileged few with the best networks.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's important because typically people that are employed by some of the big companies come from a privileged background, or give us some vision.
Yeah, sure. So when you think about employee referrals, so you're at least 9 times more likely to get hired if you are referred. 82% of companies rank it as their best hiring channel. This is all incredible. This is all amazing, right? If you have a professional network. But if you come from a background like mine, again, low income, single parent family, all that good stuff that gives life character, I like to say, despite your talent, potential, drive, you don't know people that work at Google or LinkedIn or Facebook. And, that means you can never get referred, and that significantly affects your career outcomes. So, we've spoken during our user research, we've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of companies, and this by far is the most preferred, most prolific hiring channel. In fact, we spoke to, I won't say the name, but we spoke to one company, global company, publicly listed tech company, you'd all know of it for sure. 65% of their global hiring comes from employee referrals, 2/3. For every 100 hires they make, only 2 would come from a job application. So 2% of this global 100,000 people plus come for a job, which is where the majority of people from backgrounds like mine think you can get a job.
Wow.
I didn't know what employee referrals were until I started my career. I never heard of the concept in my life. But yet that's the biggest kind of, it's almost like this nepotistic hiring channel that exists in plain sight, but no one's talking about it.
Insane.
And yeah, I thought there was a big opportunity to build something that can make things more equal, but also at the same time still drive tremendous value to customers, because ultimately we are a business, and we're building that.
That's very cool. So let's understand the logistics. So how does it actually work?
Sure.
Tell for anybody listening maybe that has this challenge, from a employer hiring perspective. Tell us how
Tangent works.
Yeah,
sure. So at a high level, I don't want to bore all the minutiae, but so as I mentioned, we're like a marketplace. There's 2 sides. There's job seekers and then there's employees who, job seekers that want to get referred, and there's employees that actually make the referrals, right? A job seeker comes on, they kind of share their previous experience, their story, and they ultimately submit a video pitch. It's 1 to 2 minutes in length when they say why they're interested in a particular role, why they know they're a good match for it. And then these video pitches can be viewed by employees within these tech companies who come on to Tangent, who want to refer, maybe get a bonus if they make a successful hire, develop their skills, whatever particular reason. And they can view video pitches, the ones they think are a good match. They can reach out to that particular job seeker, hey Stuart, seen your video pitch, think you could be a great match for X company. Let's have a call to see. And if after that call, you think it's a good match, you can refer them in. So we're now making referrals accessible to everyone and not just those people that have, that are born into the right milieu.
Nice. And what about like coaching for the applicants? Like how do you help there?
Yeah, so we provide a lot of different resources to help them, come onto Tangent, how to, upskill on the roles that you want to do, how to create a compelling video pitch. So there's a lot of content that we create on that side, learn content around the particular roles. We've implemented AI to help people develop their own kind of pitch scripts so that they're compelling and help them get noticed. So there is a whole kind of learn and development piece on that so that when they do come to recording their video pitch, it's like in the best position possible so that they can get noticed by a particular employee.
Amazing. Okay, so you said the business is early stage. When was it founded? Like, give us some perspective on the timings.
Yeah, so we're in 2023 now, and company was founded in 2022. We really kind of kicked things off this time last year. So October 2022 is when, things started moving for us. So at that point, we launched our MVP. We very quickly, with like basically no ad spend, grew to like, kind of thousands of users, made our initial kind of sales to unicorn companies like Go Cardless and Multiverse, like kind of just like at a basic level, like proving the concept. But yeah, we're just about a year old. And obviously now we've just closed our fundraise. So we've really got that rocket fuel now to kind of like take Tangent to the next level. Definitely difficult fundraising in this environment, but made it happen. But yeah, just a year old.
Nice. Okay, so let's go back a year. You launched the business. How do you sign Go Cardless and Multiverse? Because they are top tier businesses. Most companies that are in hiring intelligence or some space similar want these businesses because they are the tier one accounts. How did you do that? Like how developed was the product? Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the reasons that's going to help us or make sure that we do well and win is just like our culture of experimentation. So at this early stage, we're just like, let's try lots of different things. If it works, we double down on it. If it doesn't, we scrap it, we move on. And so when we kind of, actually even taking a step back, what even gave us like the audacity to think that we could even sell for an MVP, because at a point that just was not possible for me. I didn't get to talk about it in kind of the beginning, but I started my career at LinkedIn, was there for 3.5 years, started in their graduate program. I rolled off into the sales team, selling their HR solutions to companies. So I know this space really well. I was one of the top performers, actually was the first sales rep at LinkedIn globally to ever hit a quarterly target just with multi-year contracts, like not been done before. So I'm good at selling to this type of buyer, this type of solution. But I only ever sold like really elegant and sophisticated,
incredible
tools.
Technology. Yeah.
Just like the creme de la creme. Because like LinkedIn, they're good products. So the idea of being able to sell to a customer like the names I've mentioned with an MVP that has so much friction, very little features and functionality. I just didn't even think, like, it wasn't in my realm of a possibility.
Yeah.
But I had fortunately met a great guy called Tim, lots of time for him. And I had a chat with him once and he mentioned that he's an exited founder. And he said that when he was, kind of getting kind of validation around the concept of his business, he made sales to customers. They gave him money, he didn't have a product. And I was just like, what? Like how? Like people do that? Like people, it almost truly like exploded my mind. And, we had conversations around the whole kind of situation and it just broadened my mindset of what's possible. And it then gave me the audacity to be able to think, actually, we have something. It's got users, it's got these video pitches, which is an in-demand hiring asset. Like, let's see. Let's be humbled and buy the market and not like disqualify ourselves from not having something that we think could generate any sort of revenue. So with that mindset, we then went out and just thought, let's experiment and see what could work. And one of the experiments we had the platforms we thought would be good for us in terms of getting kind of any kind of validation or traction was LinkedIn. So yeah, we posted on LinkedIn. We had someone else who's kind of got a bit of a brand on LinkedIn in the recruitment space post about us. And that did really well. One of in this case, the talent partner at Go Cardless, one of them commented on this post about Tangent, saying this is a great idea. The former salesperson in me says that's a warm lead. Jumped straight into her DMs, explained what the concept was. And a couple of calls later, they bought. So it was very much kind of stemming from the fact that you can actually make sales without a fully fledged, elegant, beautiful product, which for me at one point just didn't even seem like a thing.
Yeah.
And that you should just experiment and try things and not be precious with anything. I think at this stage, even definitely still now, even though we have fundraised, it's just still about just like trying things, learning quickly. The pace of learning is very important, iterating, dialing down what works, scrapping what doesn't, and keep on going. But that's how we made our first sale.
It's awesome because I think it's incredible to think that, like, I meet a lot of founders that haven't acquired customers because the product isn't perfect.
Right.
But what I'm hearing is that you found this way. I don't know, like, explain what the MVP literally, like, I guess, was it on Figma? Was it an actual product? Did you have, like, could somebody log in? Could they not log in?
Yeah.
Like, because I think there's a big blocker for people that they don't have that perfect product, so they don't go out and acquire customers. So, like, what are we dealing with here?
Yeah, I think I would say, shout out to my co-founder Joe. He did a good job. But I think building an MVP that, was pretty good. So you could log in, you could create a unique account, you could one-to-one message, you could upload a video pitch, and someone could come on and search. For the talent partner at Go Cardless did come on and search through videos and contact people like directly. That was possible. It wasn't a coded product. And actually, even myself and my co-founder are technical. So we, by force, have to be more creative with how we build products. So effectively what we did is we found this kind of white label product. And we use Zapier or Zapier, however you want to pronounce it, to integrate with lots of different tools, MailChimp, Google Sheets, all that stuff. To like create an automated way that it just did the basic things. And so that's what we did. And that cost us maybe like £200 a month. It was nothing to then actually prove the concept and then make our initial sales. But yeah, I think, you do have to kind of, I think there's a lot of unlearning, at least for me, when building kind of early stage companies around what actually is good enough. I think that's what you really need to learn is like, and actually it's quite interesting because when you speak to customers, you realize that some of these problems are so, so strong that, like a 4 out of 10 solution is actually really good.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing at the moment or nothing that's meeting that need. So if you can just do something that's decent, like that could actually be enough for them to purchase. And sure, the better the product is, the higher the ACV or the contract value you can actually command. We weren't making millions of pounds at this early stage, but it was something. And I think when we became less precious around how the product should look or how we'd want it to look, and just thought, is this like meeting a need? We felt a bit more comfortable to go out and pitch. And I won't lie, it was, I'm going to kind of create this picture that I was like, I was nervous, like, getting on and demoing this MVP. I was like, ooh, and like, and something pops up on the screen that shouldn't be there. Oh, don't worry about that, it's a glitch. It wasn't all perfect, and it was definitely nerve-wracking and daunting, but I feel like one thing I've learned is you have to like feel the fear and do it anyways. Yeah. And so did that, and got that good validation. So, and then also that Go Cardless made a hire from it. It was really powerful actually from Go Cardless. The talent partner there almost verbatim said to us that had she seen the hire they'd made through Tangent's CV, she wouldn't have shortlisted him. He'd been out of work for a while, just too many red flags. But actually coming to Tangent, knowing what our talent pool is, and then seeing his character drive personality through video, that's what got him noticed. That's what got him in the interview process, and that's what got him hired. And just hearing that was just like, we're onto something. Because not only are people like this candidate missing out on great opportunities to work in amazing companies like Go Cardless, the companies are also missing out on these amazing talent that exist. We exist, but the traditional methods of CV, these archaic tools, cover letters, they don't work for everyone else, for everyone. And you're actually missing out on the majority of the population that could be a good credible fit for your business. So it's like, okay, in this scrappy way, this high friction MVP and all the, there's things around it that aren't perfect, you still found value, you still purchased, and you still made a hire, like something must be there.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So what's the tips to founders currently that are blocked because they don't have an MVP? Like what would you just say, like, of your learnings a year ago? What were like 2 or 3 things that you would share as key tips?
There's lots of things. I think one, as I already mentioned, is like not be precious with what you think like is perfect. Yeah. And one thing, so my company was incubated through Zinc. So like a venture builder, they kind of find individuals, you join their program, you find a co-founder, a lot of time for Zinc. Check them out, they're great, Zinc VC. And they take a really had I started my company outside of that, I don't think we'd be here. I learn a lot through Zinc. And they take a very user-centric approach to building products. And I remember in one of the early talks they had when we were on the program, this particular speaker, he said that if you're not talking to your users, then you're making fake progress. And that always stuck with me. Like it just made sense. I think in startup land, you can get distracted by so many things that don't actually move your business forward. Going to conferences, abroad, speaking on panels, going to lots of different networking events. These are nice, and I'm sure there is value to them. But like at this particular point in time, which is early stage, are they moving your company forward? Probably not. And I think speaking to users is going to do that, because that's where you develop the insights around, what you should build, how you should build it, how you should position it, and so forth. And I think that was something we've always done. We've done over 250, close, probably like 300 user interviews now. We had a design partnership with some amazing companies to really inform like what the enterprise solution should be. Don't build in absence of your target user, customer, member, because you're probably going to build the wrong thing. And doing that will save you so much time. So I think that's one thing. I think, I think again, like just have like the market or the company humble you and tell you your product isn't good enough. Don't do that to yourself. If you built something and it's meeting an unmet need and you think there's a gap in the market that this can fill, just start getting it in front of people. Yeah. Getting that feedback. It is nerve-wracking, and people will tell you that your child is ugly, and that's sad, but that's how you grow, and that's how you get better. And I think the more we just like release things and don't wait until they're like at that right moment onto their perfect, I think the better you'll get that feedback, and you can start to kind of grow the business. So I think those would be some of the tips on top of my mind.
Nice. So you're not a technical founder, but you are a founder with pretty incredible sales background, and like I get the sense you're very determined, that you kind of smash through walls when you want to achieve something.
For sure.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, good question. It probably does come from my upbringing, I'd say. So I'm a very vulnerable person. I grew up low income, as I already mentioned, single parent family. I one of 5 kids, didn't meet my dad till I was 9 years old. All the things in life, again, I think gives character and flavor, definitely has given it to me, but for sure develops resilience. Like my mother is incredible, but single parent raising 5 kids in a country that she's not from, like it's tough. And that meant that she didn't have all the time in the world to like cater to like all our individual, she did an incredible job, but she's busy and she's trying to run a house and everything like that. So by force, by nature, I had to be very like proactive and like get things done by myself, because I couldn't wait for other people to do that for me. So just kind of reflecting on that upbringing, that's kind of where it's come from. And when you don't grow up with much, I think that you have to be determined and you have to be driven and you have to like almost like you have to break down doors. And it's a thing that's easier said than done. And I understand, like I try not to be too cavalier with saying these things, because whilst I do think there's a big onus on individuals to own their destiny, ultimately we live in existing systems and structures where like it is who you know and not what you know. And so you can be pushing down doors and banging down doors, but like if those doors aren't open for you, like opportunity is going to be difficult to avail of. But I think as a fundamental characteristic of who I am, it definitely has come like root from my upbringing, which is why I'm actually so grateful that I had it, because now I'm just like so determined. I just like a lot of the things, like particularly in startup land, there's many things that we're doing where I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And like I lie in bed and I'm like, I have no idea I'm going to do this thing. Like, but I just got to figure it out. Just got to go. And I've done way too many things in my life now where I've felt this way and I have had no clue how to do something and I've made it happen. And that's definitely with Tangent as well. Joe and I have done so many things that we just didn't think at one point was possible. Building an MVP, getting traction, making sales, fundraising, like all that at one point did feel impossible, but you just got to try. And but I would always reflect back on how I grew up and the circumstances around that. And I think another thing quite finally about my mother, she, when I was younger, a lot of the time, if I ever doubted myself, I was going to, there's an exam on a particular day and I'm like, oh, I didn't study enough. I don't think I'm going to do well. She would it's funny now, but at the time it was horrifying. She would literally like get angry at me. Like, what do you mean you're not going to pass that exam? Yes, you are. Like she would genuinely be mad at me for doubting myself. And I think that's served as like a kind of positive reinforcement. It's like now I always just like believe in myself because I always remember my mom's behind me and she'd get angry if I doubt myself, and I don't want that. So I'm just like, I can do it.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely upbringing.
So tell me then, like how, with your upbringing that you've been very honest about, how then a job at LinkedIn, right? Because for a lot of people, the dream of getting a job at LinkedIn seems a million miles away. So sure. how did you achieve that? Yeah,
I think again, very proactive. So I did a summer internship at the end of my second year at a bank in Barclays, Canary Wharf. I was earning hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds a month, like more money. Growing up on free school meals, it was like, what is this world? But I ended that summer internship knowing that I did not want to work in finance. I just did that because, a lot of my other friends were doing it, and I heard you can make lots of money. And obviously, we grow up with little, you want that.
Yeah.
And I also didn't want to work straight away. And I also wanted to be a bit more purposeful in the type of company that I wanted to work in. So when I was looking for like job opportunities, I was looking more at mission around companies, and LinkedIn's one stood out to me a lot. It's to create economic opportunity, or their vision is to create economic opportunity for the global workforce. And for someone who didn't come from much or have much economic opportunity, that just really stood out to me. So that was like a laser focused like company that I wanted to work for. But I didn't know anyone who worked there. I don't have this network, right? So what I did is I went onto LinkedIn and I typed in LinkedIn in the search box to see who I knew. Because I didn't know anyone personally, but did I know anyone who knew someone that worked at LinkedIn? And I had one person that I met at this like leadership program that I did in my first year of university. I shot her a message and I said, hey, long time, how are you? I see you're connected to X. I'm super interested in working in this company. Would you be open to introducing me? And then she said yes. And I wrote her a message, which she sent to him. Didn't hear back from him for like 3 weeks. And I was like, well then, it's not meant to be, that's how it is. But he did come back, arranged the meeting in the LinkedIn London office. That went well. He then basically referred me, but I didn't know this until after I got hired.
Wow.
And then, referred me. The campus recruiter for their graduate program called the Business Leadership Program reached out to me. I had a call with her. She was like, great, went well. And then went from there straight to on-site interview. So I didn't actually apply for the job at LinkedIn. It was just like through being proactive on the platform, networking, and I went straight from like, a call with a recruiter, a meeting, a call, and then like getting to the final stage. And then, I got the job. But it was very much, that's how LinkedIn came about. Very much kind of like proactivity, going out there. And I've always been like that. I've always been one that like goes on Googles and types in things and, just finds stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really wait for things to come to me. I'm just like kind of going out there and finding it. And that led to start spending 3.5 years at what is truly an incredible company. Like LinkedIn will always be a defining part of my career. Not only did I learn so much, met my best friends there. It was great. I was 22 when I started, and you had free food, free gym, on-site masseuse. It was silly. But that's how it kind of came up there.
So you got referred essentially for the job, right? Through a referral. And did you know that, was that like in the back of your mind when you decided to build Tangent, that you got that opportunity through a referral? Or was it just serendipity that's what you've now built?
Yeah, I did. No. So definitely didn't. So actually not through the realization that I was referred, but more so just what I observed and and subsequent things that happened in my career after. So got to LinkedIn now, and that's, when at LinkedIn, they have this thing called introduction. It's like the first 2 days that every employee kind of does with a group of new joiners at that same time. And you're just basically introduced to the company. And one of the things they ask is like, how did you get your job at LinkedIn, or how did you find out about LinkedIn? And, people are sourced. So people like, recruiters that use LinkedIn's tools reach out to people. People are referred, or like you're kind of an anomaly like myself, and you kind of like hustle to get into it. And I think there was 26 of us in that introduction. And I think 50%, if not more, got referred. And, the rest was sourced, and there was me. I was like, what's a referral? Like, how? I'd never heard of it before. I truly only thought the only way you could get a job was to apply for a job online, for an ad. I didn't think there was no other, like being sourced, like recruiters reaching out to you for that also didn't exist in my mind either. But to see that most people came for referral, that was just really interesting to me. And that definitely permeated throughout my entire time. It's an incredible company, it's amazing, but that was definitely the leading hiring channel. And I noticed that although it is amazing, referrals are quick hires, they're a cheap source of hires, they stay longer in companies. There's loads of value for companies with a referral hire. But they're also really like unfair. So I was in the UKI team selling, to the UKI market. But I was based in Dublin, by the way. The graduate program is based in Dublin. So I was living in Dublin, Ireland. And I'd say about 80% of my team was, private schooled, South Dublin. South Dublin is Dublin is split north, south of the River Liffey, and the south side is more privileged side. And I'd say like everyone was from private schools, specifically from South Dublin, not from other parts of Ireland, specifically from South Dublin, because some of them got in initially and they just referred their friends. And that meant, so that's like an impact on diversity, right? People from different backgrounds typically weren't getting in this immediate team. But it also had a massive impact on inclusion, because a lot of people were from this like one side of Ireland. they all were like 1 degree removed, or if not, they knew each other. So they already had the same speak, they were all friends, and they just like had these groups that if you were from London, you know, you could never get in, you couldn't fit in, you didn't understand the jokes, they didn't even want to, they sat with us together at lunch, they didn't invite you, like it was quite exclusionary. So I'd seen this impact on like diversity, how unfair it was, very nepotistic hiring channel, but also on inclusion. I saw that that's a problem that needs to be solved. And then so that's like one, that happened at LinkedIn. I then actually left LinkedIn after 3.5 years. I wanted to have more of an impactful career. So I decided to, you know, quit my 6-figure job, take an 80% salary reduction, which is very hard when you grow up poor. And I moved to the British Council to lead social mobility programs. Like I felt like I'd learned a lot about how to be mobile. I wanted to share that with other people. And whilst I was at the British Council managing these programs, we'd oftentimes survey our alumni and, you know, ask them what they would want more of and what would help them in their careers. And it was always networking, always more networking, meeting more people. And I just kind of working, hearing from the audience, like, you know, this is what they want. And then like reflecting on my time at LinkedIn, where there was this like incredible hiring channel, which is basically just based on network. I just kind of put the two together, and then Tangent kind of came around.
Nice. And how long did you last at the British Council?
British Council, yeah, that was an interesting experience. I was there for 2 years. Actually, I have weird career. So the role at the British Council was actually originally based in Beijing. And so I moved to Beijing at the beginning of 2020, Jan 6th, perfect timing. Because, you know, only a couple of weeks later, there's this thing, you know, COVID. I don't know, you know. Obviously, I was working at the British Council, which is like, you know, pseudo-government. So, and there you're actually employed by the embassy, British embassy. So we heard about this thing in Wuhan. You know, Wuhan, like this thing's happening. Didn't really think much of it. A few weeks later, I'm in a pub or a bar in Beijing, and there's like, Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister at the time. It's like, if you're Brit in China, come home now. It's like, what is going on? Like, no one really knew the extent of this thing. So I was there for about 5 or 6 weeks working before I had to come back to London. And I spent the most of my time working remotely from the UK.
Wow. And how quickly from seeing that news bulletin did you get on a flight?
Yeah, it was probably a couple of days.
Crazy.
It was very quick. It's like, you just whirlwind, pack your stuff, you know, and leave. And you who knows? And it was, in hindsight, it was totally the right thing to do, because I could have stayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the right thing to do.
So you've come through the British Council, you find Zinc.vc, and as you mentioned, they help you find co-founders and they help you with ideation, and it's a program that is very supportive for founders. You come out and you've got this idea, and you then need to raise capital. And you told me earlier that at one point, I think you had a 70% conversion rate from these initial.
I got good. Yeah.
So listen, I'm sure there's a load of people listening right now where in 2023, the ability to raise capital is super difficult in comparison to probably the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Sure.
And it's slowing a lot of businesses down. There's a very high failure rate right now.
Right.
What is it that you did to raise that capital, and any, you know, frameworks or guidance that you can share, I think would be incredible, because I know it's front of mind for a ton of the early stage founders that are listening.
Sure, yeah, and you know, we've managed to fundraise in a very difficult environment with an incredible list of investors, and very proud to have them on the journey and very excited that they've taken a chance on us. Yeah, it's very difficult to fundraise right now, and but upon reflection, I think. Because it did get good, and I think we fundraised about 3 to 4 months to raise the amount that we did, and the first kind of half of that time I was just own goaling, making lots of mistakes, but making sure I had a quick pace of learning and execution on those learnings, and then the remaining half, like, you know, got pretty good in that conversion on kind of calls, and particularly from angel investors, very prolific, well-known angels was really quick, and I think. There were 3 things that I did that kind of allowed for that to happen. Upon reflection, this wasn't intentional, but when I reflect, I think these are the 3 things that help people go, you know, after just one call, because most investors committed after one call, and most of them haven't actually met my co-founder, or didn't meet my co-founder by the time they had committed and, you know, wired their money. So I would say the 3 things I did was demonstrate a connection to the problem, commitment to the problem, and then demonstrate my brilliance. So I'll just do it, kind of done it already, but I'll do like a very quick whistle stop tour of my introduction that I typically would have done in a pitch call to an investor, which is quite similar to what I've already done. But I'd say, so I'll start from the beginning. Investor, I grew up low income, single parent family, didn't meet my dad until I was 9 years old. But since then, I've gone through a rapidly upwardly mobile journey, did well in school, got into my first university with a scholarship, and started my career at LinkedIn, where I quickly became one of the top performers, first sales rep ever to hit a quality target just with multi-year deals. But towards the end of my 3.5 years, I wanted to have more of an impactful career. So I quit my 6-figure job, taking 80% salary reduction, and moved to the British Council to lead these programs. Whilst I was there, I created my own social mobility podcast that was featured in the media. It won an award from McKinsey & Company, and it's kicked off my public speaking career by doing lots of talks in it, most notably at the Oxford Union. So that's like a quick introduction. And so just to play back that framework, right? So connection to the problem, grew up low income, single parent family, didn't meet my dad, like scratching his own itch. He's clearly passionate about this, like great, that's one tick. Commitment to the problem, was at LinkedIn, earning well into the 6 figures, living my best life by my early mid-20s, but decided to take an 80% salary reduction to lead social mobility programs at the British Council, right? And also, whilst he's there, created a social mobility podcast. Now, and obviously my company's very aligned to this topic, right? So committed, taking life risk, etc. And then demonstrated brilliance, top performer at LinkedIn, first sales rep to do X, podcast, won awards, featured in the media, public speaking everywhere. Those were when I look back and I reflect on conversations I've had with investors, because there was a part, when I look at the list of investors that we have, I just feel like, why? In a weird way, I'm just like kind of talking passionately with a lot of, just because I usually believe, when I believe in what I am doing, I think I am quite influential, but I'm just speaking really. And I'm just asking like why, and I think those are the three things. Connection to the problem, commitment to the problem, demonstrated brilliance. People like to see that there is something within your story that aligns with the business you're building and how you want to solve something. That can suggest that you will have unique insights into the problem, that you're ready to go along the whole journey, right? Than give up if things aren't going well. Commitment to the problem, again, that you've already taken risk in somewhat way, to demonstrate that when things get hard, because they are going to get hard, that you will, again, you'll be resilient and you will kind of test that time, but you're someone who's actually already tried to make change on the topic that you're in. And then demonstrated brilliance. I think ultimately, every investor wants to back winners, or someone that they believe is exceptional and can do, to produce outlier results. And I think, fundraising is not an exercise of humbleness. This is about beating your chest and saying like, you are brilliant and this is why, evidenced by X, Y, Z. I think those three things together, of course, supplemented by, your pitch deck, a data room, all these other materials that go with fundraising. I think that was what helped us fundraise in the time that in a fairly short amount of time that we did with the group of investors in this particular market. So
for people that don't know any super angels or don't know any angels, how do they go about finding them?
Yeah, good question. And I'm oftentimes asked that because you mentioned super angels, and that really was like the thing that changed. So we had two, super angels, well-known angels in the kind of the ecosystem and commit to around fairly, small tickets. But tremendous value, particularly in terms of their network. So what they did is they committed, and once they did, they then just sent out these messages to their network. And my God, so much came back with just incredible people that just naturally, I just wouldn't be able to have kind of like contact with. And then, what was two fairly modest tickets, under 10K, I'm talking here, then turned into like hundreds of thousands of pounds collectively when, just wasn't, And obviously that's like not something that everyone, I met these two people in very kind of esoteric, kind of ways that you couldn't necessarily suggest to someone to just, there's a playbook to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the premise of finding super angels who can then open their network or unlock their network for you is something that can be applied in different areas. And one thing that I suggest other people do, and I think actually people get results from, is I think a few months ago, earlier this year, Founders Forum and Bewhurst, I believe, released this list of the top 100 angel investors in the UK. They've listed all their names, what have they previously invested in, the type of things they like to. So the salesperson in me goes, that is a ready-made leads list.
Let's go.
Like 100 of them, and it's there for me. If I was when I do speak to founders now, I say, find that list, go for it. It will take you time. It will, right? Find that list, find the relevant investors on that list, and best case scenario, try and get a warm introduction to them. If not, write a really good personalized introduction via LinkedIn or whatever means that you can, email, etc. Because if you can get 1, 2, or 3 of those super angels to invest, and they then unlock their networks for you, it can make change everything. Because sometimes I almost feel like if we didn't have those two people come into our round, what would be happening? It'd be quite scary. It's scary to think about actually, but that is the advice I'd give. I'd be like, where are a concentration of angels and how can I go there and, then kind of access. So yeah, Founders Forum, Buhurst, Top 100 Angels, that's just that. But I suppose it also touches on another frustration that I have of just, because clearly I can fundraise, right? Or I can at least, from angels. And, we did actually get a term sheet for a fund, but we actually turned it down because we had such good traction of angels and we get better valuation, etc. But, clearly I've got it in me. I've always had that. But it took me having to break into particular networks to then avail of the capital that is abundant, I'd say, to even have a chance. And it's just that you realize underscore, like in every what way, with Tangent, that's what we exist to do. It is what you know and not is who you know and not what you know. And I will die on that hill, and it really does come back to like what we're born into, because what you're born into does determine whether you have access to these privileged networks or not. Because there's so many people like me who have the ability and potential to, when you put them in front of someone, they can sell and they have great ideas and they have great work, but they just can't access that opportunity. It just makes you think how many great ideas are not being built, how many great founders are not getting backed, because because if you remove those two angels, God, Stuart,
hard.
It's tense. Like we would eventually have fundraisers, I no doubt that we would have, but maybe not as well or as quick as we did.
And how hard did you have to work? Like how intense was that period where you were fundraising?
Yeah, I think particularly as a first-time founder in 2023, it's challenging. There were days where I don't mind getting no's. Someone rejecting, saying no or not now. That's fine. That's just life. And if you're learning from it, then actually it's a good thing. You're growing and developing. What was really challenging for me was kind of like going into weeks where I didn't have pipeline or like other investor calls. That was challenging. And so there'd be a particular week where I'd look into the following week and like, my calendar is empty. Those days you just be lying in bed like feeling paralyzed. Like the weight of the world is just like sinking on you, and it was tough in those moments. And how do you even find these people ultimately? And again, fortunately had these angels commit and then they shared us, and that particular week weeks where things were like they'd enter with nothing, but at the end of it I would have had 20 calls just because like people introduced and things would come in. So that was tough. Just like, access to people. But once we kind of got our rhythm, I think what I really did prioritize was just like a quick pace of learning. If I got to know, I always really try to, even in the call, I try to develop, a quick enough relationship with someone that even if they were going to pass, they're going to give me, helpful feedback.
And you'd seek that?
I always, so on the call, I try to, as much as I can, even 30 minutes, whatever, just try and get to know the person as an individual. Because then at least I find in my experience they're a bit more open to actually giving you like actionable feedback rather than it's too early. It's not for us. Like that's not helpful. So I was quite fortunate to always get good feedback in passes that we did have. And so for getting that, it's very key to then like have a very quick pace of learning and then execution on that learning for the next calls that you have. So if I had a no on a Monday because defensibility wasn't clear, that entire night before my 9 a.m. call on Tuesday, I am building a solid case on defensibility. I'm not sleeping until it's done. So it's like, got that feedback. I the thought of going into another call and someone else passing because of the same feedback reviewing someone else would just kill me. I just like, that's why am I making that mistake? I know this is something that I need to work on. So I think that's like going for those challenging times and like, not having things on your calendar and getting those no's, but like make sure extracting feedback and I'm like quick pace of learning and execution on those is what kind of got us through.
So as a first-time founder, you mentioned valuation. I'm sure for people listening, they've heard the term valuation. Maybe some have achieved a valuation because they have been successful, but how did you navigate valuation of the business? Like, where did you seek counsel for? Like, who was coaching you, or did you just Google it and figure it out? Like, what was going on?
Yeah, I think, valuation definitely at the pre-seed seed stages, like, finger in the air type of, I think there are things that you can put into, like you can take stock of that does determine evaluation, years of experience, the level of traction you've had, domain expertise, etc. That can all inform it. But, I see it as a sales process. You start with a price and then you negotiate around it. And that's how we approached it. Like we looked at a few different kind of charts and like the historical, what's a good valuation or what's the typical range and evaluation and average and so forth, and used that as kind of like a benchmark and then, and above it. And just went out to the market, I suppose. And so I suppose evaluation at this stage is just what people are prepared to pay for. That's it, right? Like what people are willing to pay for, they will take it, yes or no. And we had a valuation that we're happy with, and we just tested it. And I think with, we had decent traction. We had a product, we had users, we had sales, and we had hires for those sales. I think that's pretty decent with spending, little money. We had, our monthly, we were spending no money. Let's do that to have those results with the kind of the cash we were burning and so forth. We felt we could ask. At least ask, if you don't ask, you can't, get. So we just kind of navigated it, treated it like a sales process, I suppose.
Cool. So you had Zinc supporting you at the initial ideation, taking you through there. Totally. Have you sought any other support out with your angels? Are you part of any other programs that are helping where you are now to where you want to be in the coming months and years?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are very fortunate to be one of only 15 companies across Europe out of over 4,000 applications to receive a spot on Google's Black Founders Fund this year. So it's an incredible program. You get, kind of a 6-figure equity-free cash investment into your business. You get hundreds of thousands of pounds of Google Cloud credits. You get lots of support from the Google team, from marketers to engineers to product teams. And then there's also I think underscoring all that kind of business value, they really emphasize the fun. So, we've socials here, socials there. They're taking us to Cape Town in December. So, it's, and also there's this incredible community of other Black founders, who have been backed by Axel, Sequoia, just incredible funds. And this is now my network and who I get to be motivated by and learn from. And Google are really invested in our success.
Amazing. So,
you could just, again, their kind of approach is ask. We may not always be able to help, but we're Google, we're a huge business. And you're on this program, it's very competitive, where we can support you, we can. And, right now, there's just so many things that we're focusing on where they've just been tremendously helpful on. And very fortunate to be a part of the Google community.
How do you go from 4,000 applicants to one of the 15 that gets chosen? What was the secret sauce there?
Oh, did you have to ask them? I think it's because it's very, there's a number of interviews and there's a selection process which actually includes leadership of GV, so Google's venture arm, that they make the actual decisions. And I think it comes down to a lot of things in terms of what any investor, because you really have to treat it as any other fund and how they would treat you. So, we had traction, we had found a market fit, and we had a vision that aligned, a bigger vision of a new world of work that we are so for sure we're shaping. But we could easily track that down to this little thing that we're starting with now, which is this employee referral program, but it's going to be so much bigger, right? And so we had to treat it like that. I think if you have the good traction, that story, that found a market fit, that vision, and something unique. We're operating a lot of unique and contrarian insights of Tangent. I think that caught their attention. I think that's what I think.
And you just applied online?
Exactly. Yeah. So I almost didn't apply, which is quite interesting because I thought we were too early.
Wow.
It's we had some stuff. I'd seen some of the other companies that had gotten funded from them in the previous, and I thought, oh wow. And I actually met some of the other founders, and they were doing 10, 20K in MRR, and we weren't even close to that. So I was just like, geez, is this for me? We'll see, right? I just thought, again, have them disqualify us and don't disqualify yourself. I think that's something that I live by now, and thank God I do, because I could have missed out on this incredible kind of defining period. Because it's not only just the money and the community and so forth. You can use the Google kind of the name in so many other ways. When we're hiring now, we are Google backed. That does creates a certain cachet around you. We are able to attract talent in that sense. And, we've just made our first hire, and he definitely does kind of attribute that kind of messaging that we put out as a reason why he was even interested. He wasn't looking for a job. There's a lot that I think that has benefited us from that. I believe a lot more that will come over time.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And I actually love that value, get disqualified out rather than qualify yourself in. I think it's a really nice way to think about a lot of decisions in business and life. So what is where is Tangent going to be in 5 years? How do you set goals around that for yourself personally and professionally, for somebody with your drive?
Yeah, so I think when I look at Tangent, I do think there's a lot of room to like really upend the current way companies hire, and the tools and systems and services they currently use are, I think, in many ways are fundamentally broken, and that needs to change. I think there's a lot of room now for new solutions that are embedded with mission to stand out in the market. Because I think particularly like I'll be very clear, like I'll be very candid. We're recruitment tech, hire, which isn't the most sexy kind of space, and it's also incredibly crowded. You have to cut through the noise. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to leverage the uniqueness of what we're building with the mission that we have to really like just shift and shake things up. So we do see a new world of work where, opportunities are a lot more equitable. Companies are thriving, performing much better. Economies consequently are better as well. And that's stemming from us. Like we just see a whole new world of work, of life, and we're on that mission to shape that.
And you want to have 10,000 employees, 200, or is it not about that?
10,000, you're thinking too small, Stuart. Come on. Yeah, I mean, as much as we need to have the impact that we have, right? Like we definitely have I think oftentimes people say, founders that come out of this kind of market downturn are going to be great outlier businesses because like the discipline you have to have around capital efficiency and so forth. So, and we definitely have that. We have to think lean and capital efficient by force of the market that we're in. So, I don't measure success by a number of employees, right? So I'm not really thinking I need to build a business with this many people. It's more about like, obviously revenue and profitability and, scale and that kind of, and the impact, of course. It's very important that we have a business model that has impact embedded in it. So the more we sell, the more impact we have, and that's what we've got. But yeah, I think I just see a whole new world. I think that will happen. It needs to happen. We're uniquely going to shape that. And we have a thesis on how we approach upending and reshifting the HR industry, which is over $1 trillion in size. And we are going to deliver on that thesis.
Nice. Okay, so one of my final questions for you is, if you had to be critical of your own success to this point with Tangent, what would you have done differently? I know it's only been a year, so it's a relatively short period of time, but can you reflect on what you could have done better as the founder to help other founders that are listening?
Yeah, I mean, geez, there's almost too many things. I'll share what comes to mind. So I think a lot of things might be around fundraising. I think that during fundraising, I would have spent initially, before actually going out to fundraise and speaking to angels and VCs and syndicates, I would have spent more time and built my network with more founders, particularly founders that had just raised a pre-seed or a seed round. I think that oftentimes when you're a founder and you want to fundraise, you kind of flock towards investors and you want to like talk to them and get their time. You go to a networking event, you find the angel or the investor there. If I was to go back, I would spend less time doing that and actually spending more time building out relationships with founders who have just raised, because they've just gone through it. They would have the more applicable and relevant advice to share about how to fundraise in a particular market. They'd also, if you build up a good relationship with them, they're also a great route into finding investors, right? Now obviously I have we have a group of investors. When I make an introduction to someone or I send someone's blurb over to one of my investors, oftentimes they'll take the call because it's coming from a portfolio founder. So I spend more time actually building relationships, learning from current founders that I've just raised, and then trying to use them as a conduit between myself and investors, rather than going straight for the investor themselves. That would be something I would do differently. I'll also do more mock pitches with other founders. So not like the first time I try something is on an investor. I would like try and actually do that with friendly founders who can give me that candid feedback in a safe and kind of like not insignificant kind of, if they rip me to pieces, there's no kind of consequence to that, right? I think those would be some of the things that I would do differently. When we were fundraising, I spent too much time focusing, because in this market I was just saying that it's very hard to fundraise and you need to have traction and so forth. So I spent too much time talking about traction and product and traction, the sales we had and users we had and so forth, and not enough on vision and team. And that resulted in a few no's, and we've got some feedback on that, and that was really interesting. So just making sure you're hitting all the things that you need to, don't get too kind of bogged down onto any one particular dimension of it. And I think ultimately I would really say just like believe in yourself. And it's it's hackneyed, banal advice, but I think it's really important to make sure that, like don't doubt yourself, And actually, if you make mistakes, which are inevitable, everyone makes them. It's like, failing isn't or making mistakes isn't the process going wrong. It is a part of the process. And when I start to see things that way, it just started to relieve a lot of pressure off of me. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone gets told that everyone fails, and that's normal. What you have to do is make sure you have a quick kind of pace of learning and pace of execution on those learnings to go forward. And yeah, I just feel like, when you do make mistakes, when you're going to do them, Gary, don't doubt yourself. Trust that actually the learnings you will extract from those learnings, failures, etc., you need to actually go through, because you apply that in such a way that you will eventually win. And so you'll be fine. I think those are some of the key things that I would say to a former Gary or a founder who is embarking on this journey.
Yeah, I love it. So now that you're at this point, do you have it all under control?
Hard no. No, not at all. No. Lots to learn, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, lots to figure out. And I think that's always going to be like living in uncertainty and embracing, ambiguity. I think that's just the way it is. If I had it all under control, it'd probably be a bit boring. I wouldn't probably be learning as much, and I thrive in learning environments. So no, I don't have it kind of all control. I'm oftentimes anxious and nervous, and it's difficult. Yeah. But I just going back to what I said, I just really do believe that I will just figure it out. Like, what's challenging right now is that, we fundraise and we've got this lots of great investors and we've got good runway and so forth, but there's so many things that I have to do that I've never done before. I have no idea how to do it, but I'll figure it out. That I've done too many things now from start of my career and everything with Tangent that I've learned that things will be hard and I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but I am smart enough and I work hard enough to be sure, and I'm exceptional enough so that I will figure it out. And when I do figure it out, it will be really good. Like, it will be top results. Yeah. So no, I don't, but I believe I will.
Is it that self-confidence that helps you overcome the anxiety? Because when I, reflect back on my career, certainly that pressure of the number or building revenue, knowing that you've got a cash out date, was incredibly hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And how out with the self-confidence, any practical tips for people that maybe have that doubt or that fear of what the future holds to overcome it? For other founders that, maybe don't have that much cash left or are feeling the pressure right now, anything that you can share?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I've not been in that situation myself to, feel like I can provide qualified advice. Not yet, but when I'm feeling these challenges or situations, I think as people probably grasp from this conversation, I'm quite vulnerable. So I spend a lot of time just talking to people. Yeah. Just a problem shared is a problem halved, I think, or something like that, right? So I think that's the saying. I don't keep things to myself. I'm very open with my friends, and talking about these particular challenges with other founders. As I mentioned, if a founder's seed, Series A, they've gone through everything that I've gone through. There's no unique experience that I can go through that another founder hasn't done. We all go through the same things, right? So just talk to other people, and not only is that cathartic, right? It's therapeutic to get that off your mind and not just keep these things in your head. There's oftentimes really incredible advice that either your friends or definitely other founders that can provide you that at least kind of assuage the pressures that you have, right? Because the pressures are real and they're there. But if you can hear from someone that, I went through this and this is what happened, we overcame it, or this is what I would do, just collect other insights and experiences. I found to be really helpful for me. I don't exist in isolation. Nice. I don't. I always talk to other people and seek counsel. I don't try to pretend that I have all the answers. I don't have an ego or kind of bravado in that sense. And I think that's what's helped. A lot of the things that have felt quite critical and quite, significant, this could be the end, I've been able to overcome just for a conversation with someone. Yeah.
It's part of the reason that I wanted to have these conversations, because I think that early stage, there's so many challenges. And I think just hearing from people like yourself, it's incredibly inspiring. I've taken a ton away from the conversation. And how can businesses find you so that you can sign some clients off the back of this? Sure. Also, how can other people find you and get in touch, because you've got a ton of wisdom to share?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Stuart. So check us out on jointangent.com. So one word, jointangent.com. tangent.com. That's a website. You can learn everything about us there. And then I'm most active on LinkedIn. So Gary Izunwa. I'm sure my name will be in the show notes or so forth. So just happy to chat and talk. And I think that I don't have a ubiquitous amount of time free, but where I can help, even if it's like just pointing a resource in your direction or connecting you with someone else, or always happy to, I think I'm very much a founder for founder like type of person. I think this is so hard what we do that what I can do to help support others, like I will try my best to do. So that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Stuart. It's been great.